For decades, American police departments had a number they could not escape: 147 miles per hour. That was the speed associated with the 1969 Dodge Polara, a huge four-door pursuit sedan from the last great years of the muscle car era. Long after the big block age collapsed under emissions regulations, fuel shortages, and downsizing, the Polara's figure remained untouched. Police cars became slower, engines became smaller, and the old Dodge sat in the record books like a reminder of what had once been possible. Then, in the 1990s, another car entered the story. It did not arrive with the proportions of a muscle car or the image of a purpose-built performance machine. In fact, it looked almost aggressively ordinary. Smooth, rounded, anonymous, and easy to mistake for a rental sedan or taxi. The Chevrolet Caprice seemed like an unlikely candidate to challenge one of the most famous police car records in America. Yet, that is exactly how the legend began. Collectors still hunt these cars today. Retired officers remember them. Used car advertisements and enthusiast discussions regularly repeat the same claim. This was the police sedan that finally knocked the 1969 Polara off the top. The truth is more complicated. The Chevrolet Caprice 9C1 did help in the Polara's long reign over modern police car performance, but not in the simple way the popular story suggests. It did not cleanly erase the old Dodge's number in independent testing. What it did was restore serious speed to American police work after years in which pursuit sedans have become heavy, slow, and increasingly compromised. To understand why the Caprice mattered, the story has to begin with how far police cars have fallen. By the early 1990s, the American pursuit sedan had spent roughly a decade and a half trying to recover from the performance collapse of the 1970s. Emissions restrictions had reduced engine output. The oil crises of 1973 and 1979 changed the economics of operating large displacement V8s. Manufacturers downsized their cars. Police departments had to accept vehicles that were durable and practical, but often painfully slow compared with what had existed only a few years earlier. The nadir came around 1980. Some police sedans from that period were so badly strangled by emissions equipment and low-output engines that they struggled to reach even 90 miles per hour. From there, performance began to improve again, but the recovery was gradual. By the late 1980s, the typical American patrol sedan was competent rather than exciting. It was large, soft, heavy, and reliable. That was useful for fleet work, but hardly ideal for serious high-speed pursuit. Two cars dominated that market: the Ford Crown Victoria and the Chevrolet Caprice. Both followed the traditional American formula. They were large, rear-wheel drive, body-on-frame sedans designed to survive long service lives, rough treatment, and endless hours on patrol. They were practical, familiar, and easy for departments to maintain. They were also not especially fast. That was the established order until Chevrolet redesigned the Caprice for 1991. The reaction was immediate. For decades, police cars and taxis had worn upright, squared-off bodies. The new Caprice abandoned that shape completely. Chevrolet replaced the old box with a long, smooth, rounded body that looked unlike almost anything else in the segment. People mocked it. The car was called the whale, the beached whale, the bubble, even an upside-down bathtub. Its rounded roof, smooth sides, and skirted rear wheels made it look strange beside the sharp-edged cars Americans had grown used to. Styling critics had plenty to complain about. Aerodynamics engineers had less reason to apologize. Underneath, the 1991 Caprice remained conventional. It still used General Motors' long-running B-body platform. It remained body-on-frame. It remained rear-wheel drive. Structurally, it was still a traditional American full-size sedan. The important change was the shape of the body. The previous Caprice had moved through the air with all the subtlety of a brick. The new rounded body produced far less aerodynamic resistance. That mattered because once a car is already moving quickly, drag becomes one of the biggest obstacles to going faster. The very shape that made the Caprice the target of jokes also gave it one of the key ingredients needed for high top speed. There was still a problem. The early 1991 to 1993 cars did not have an engine capable of fully exploiting that body. Their V8s were durable and sensible, but they were not exceptional. Then Chevrolet changed the formula for 1994. That year, General Motors gave the Caprice access to the LT1 engine family. The LT1 was part of the same modern small block V8 lineage used in cars, such as the C4 Corvette and Camaro Z28. It displaced 5.7 liters and incorporated sequential fuel injection, along with reverse flow cooling. For police and fleet duty, Chevrolet did not simply lift the Corvette engine unchanged and install it in the Caprice. The police version used its own combination of components, including different blocks, heads, and camshaft specifications, and it was tuned for durability and the realities of fleet service. But the family connection was real. In 9C1 police trim, the LT1 Power Caprice produced 260 horsepower and roughly 330 pound-feet of torque. Those figures may not sound dramatic by modern standards. In the mid-1990s, inside a large full-size sedan with unusually good aerodynamics, they transformed the car. The new Caprice could reach 60 miles per hour in approximately 7 seconds, an impressive figure for a vehicle of its size and intended purpose. More important was what happened after that. The car continued pulling at high speed, where the rounded body finally began paying dividends. The sleepy fleet sedan had become a serious pursuit car. Almost immediately, it became the fastest police sedan in normal service by a substantial margin, and it left the contemporary Crown Victoria looking outdated in performance terms. But the LT1 engine was only part of the transformation. The other half was hidden in 3 characters: 9C1. That was General Motors' internal order code for the dedicated police package. Ordering a Caprice with the 9C1 option turned an ordinary family sedan into a purpose-built law enforcement tool. The suspension was upgraded with stiffer springs, revised shock absorbers, thicker stabilizer bars, and faster, firmer steering. 4-wheel disc brakes with anti-lock control improved stopping performance. A limited slip rear differential helped put power down more effectively. Cooling capacity was also increased. Police cars spend long periods idling, then may suddenly be asked to accelerate hard and maintain high speed. To survive that abuse, the 9C1 received extra engine and transmission cooling. One persistent myth deserves clarification. There was no completely separate, specially reinforced police-only frame welded into the 9C1. The car still used the standard full-size chassis architecture. What made it different was the combination of heavy-duty suspension, brakes, steering, cooling, driveline equipment, and police-specific hardware installed around that basic structure. That proved to be more than enough. And then there was the feature officers loved most: anonymity. Put a 9C1 Caprice beside a civilian version, a rental car, or a taxi, and the differences were easy to miss unless you knew exactly what to look for. That was a tremendous advantage for unmarked work. The fastest police sedan in the country could sit beside the road, looking like one of the dullest cars in America. No aggressive stance, no obvious muscle car image, no exotic bodywork. Then the hidden lights came on. For undercover operations and traffic enforcement, the Caprice's bland appearance became a weapon. Drivers who believed they knew what a police car looked like could find themselves learning otherwise very quickly. The styling jokes had accidentally become part of the car's effectiveness. Nobody was intimidated by the whale. That was precisely why it worked. Chevrolet's 1994 Impala SS provided further evidence of how capable the basic platform had become. The civilian Impala SS shared much of the same underlying formula: LT1 power, heavy-duty full-size chassis hardware, and rear-wheel drive, but presented in a more enthusiast-oriented package with body-colored trim and alloy wheels. In a sense, the police car had already contained the hot rod hardware. The Impala simply gave the public a version designed to look the part. By the middle of the 1990s, the Caprice 9C1 had almost everything a police department could want. It was fast, it was durable, it had room, it could hide in plain sight. And naturally, one question followed: had it finally beaten the 1969 Dodge Polara? That is where legend and documented testing begin to separate. Every year, The Michigan State Police conducted one of the most respected standardized police vehicle evaluations in the United States. Cars were taken to proving grounds and measured under controlled conditions, including repeated high-speed testing. When the LT1 powered 1994 Caprice 9C1 was tested, it reached approximately 141 miles per hour. That was a remarkable result. It was faster than police sedans had managed in years, and clearly established the Caprice as the performance leader of its own era. But 141 was still short of 147. By roughly 6 miles per hour, the old Dodge remained ahead. There's another complication. In many Caprices, the stated top speed reflected an electronic speed governor rather than the absolute aerodynamic or mechanical limit of the car. Chevrolet allowed fleet buyers to select different speed ceilings, depending largely on the speed rating of the tires ordered with the vehicle. As a result, two otherwise similar 9C1 Caprices could have very different maximum speeds. One department might receive cars governed around 141 miles per hour. Another might receive cars limited to roughly 132. A fleet ordered with a lower rated tire could end up restricted to around 120. That is one reason the Caprice's top speed numbers vary so widely in enthusiast discussions. The car's maximum speed depended partly on horsepower and gearing, but also on the way the fleet order sheet had been filled out. So where did the claim that the Caprice actually defeated the Polara originate? The source appears to have been General Motors itself. Period promotional material reportedly presented the LT1 Caprice as having exceeded the old Dodge by a very small margin. As a marketing statement, it was extremely effective. The claim spread. It appeared in conversations, advertisements, articles, and enthusiast lore until it became accepted as fact. The independent testing record is harder to reconcile with that version. Measured Michigan State Police results put the 1994 Caprice at about 141 miles per hour. That means the Caprice was the fastest police sedan of its own generation, but not the car that definitively erased the Polara's 147 miles per hour benchmark in standardized independent testing. That distinction matters. For a brief period in the mid-1990s, the history of American police car performance effectively had two reference points. One is the 1969 Dodge Polara, the huge Mopar from the muscle car age. The other was the 1994 Chevrolet Caprice 9C1, the rounded Chevy that brought modern police sedans back within striking distance. Separated by 25 years, they were only about 6 miles per hour apart in the commonly cited independent figures. The Caprice might have had time to close that final gap. Instead, General Motors entered the program. In 1996, production of the rear-wheel drive Caprice came to an end. The reason had little to do with police car performance. General Motors wanted the Arlington, Texas, assembly plant for products that had become far more profitable: full-size trucks and sport utility vehicles. SUV demand was exploding. So Chevrolet discontinued the Caprice, the Impala SS, and the rest of that generation of large rear-wheel drive sedans after 1996. The timing was almost cruel. American police departments had finally regained a genuinely capable full-size pursuit car, and a manufacturer stopped building it. After that, the Ford Crown Victoria would dominate the traditional American police sedan market for roughly the next decade. Departments did not forget the Caprice easily. Long after new cars were no longer available, specialist businesses developed around retired 9C1s. Used police Caprices were purchased, refurbished, repaired, and sometimes sold back into law enforcement service. Agencies kept old cars running years beyond the point when they normally would have been retired. That is perhaps the strongest evidence of how well the 9C1 formula worked. Departments valued the combination of interior room, durability, anonymity, high-speed stability, acceleration, and toughness enough to keep aging examples alive because the replacement market did not offer the same package. Officers remember them, too. Drivers who had worked with the LT1 Caprice often spoke about it with the same affection an earlier generation reserved for cars like the Polara. The sedan that had been ridiculed in 1991 eventually became one of the most respected American police cars of its time. And that brings the story back to the 147 miles per hour number. The Caprice did not conclusively beat the Polara in the independent test data most often cited. What may have been more important? It proved that the old record was no longer unreachable. For roughly 25 years, the Polara had looked like a product of an extinct world. The 147 miles per hour figure belonged to a time of huge engines, cheap fuel, minimal emissions restrictions, and a different philosophy of police car design. Modern pursuit cars had spent years nowhere near it. Then, the LT1 Caprice reached about 141. Suddenly, the gap was small. For the first time in a generation, a modern, emissions-compliant, fuel-injected police sedan was seriously fast again. The old record no longer looked mythical. It looked vulnerable. The car that finally finished the job arrived in the next decade. And fittingly, it came from Dodge. When Michigan State Police tested the Hemi-powered Dodge Charger Pursuit in the mid-2000s, the new car finally exceeded the old Polara benchmark. After roughly 37 years, the 1969 record fell. A Dodge had set the mark. A Dodge finally broke it. Police car performance continued climbing after that. Later still, Chevrolet revived the Caprice name for a police patrol vehicle based on Australian-built rear-wheel drive sedan. That later Caprice was eventually recorded at around 155 miles per hour in testing, comfortably beyond anything the 1969 Polara had achieved. There is one important caution in discussing all of these records. Historical police car speed figures are not always perfectly clean. Different sources place the 1969 Polara anywhere from about 147 miles per hour to just under 150, depending on the particular test or account being cited. Arguments also exist over exactly which test should be treated as the moment the record officially fell. That is almost inevitable when comparing cars tested on different tracks in different decades under different procedures. But the broad historical sequence remains clear. The 1969 Polara dominated the conversation for decades. The 1994 Caprice 9C1 brought police sedans back to within a few miles per hour of that benchmark. The later Hemi-powered Dodge cars finally pushed beyond it. Seen in that context, the Caprice was the bridge between two eras. Its importance does not depend on pretending it achieved a number that independent testing does not support. Its real achievement was more interesting. Chevrolet took a body shape people laughed at, combined it with a modern V8 related to the Corvette's engine family, strengthened the suspension and braking package for police duty, added the cooling and durability needed for fleet work, and hid all of it inside one of the most anonymous full-size sedans on the road. The result gave American police departments something they had been missing for years: real speed. And it delivered that performance without looking fast. That is why the 9C1 remains desirable among enthusiasts and memorable to officers who drove them. The so-called beached whale was mocked when it appeared, discontinued just as it reached its peak, and then appreciated only after it was gone. It never needed to be the fastest police car ever built to earn its place beside the legends. Its real legacy was waking the American pursuit sedan back up. For a few years in the 1990s, one of the most ordinary-looking cars on the road was also one of the quickest police sedans in the country. It could wait beside the highway looking like a taxi, a rental car, or someone's bland family sedan. Then the lights came on, and by the time the driver ahead realized what was behind him, the era of the slow American police car was already ending.